Well, hey, gang, Jim Jacobus. Welcome to this In the Sales Arena training webinar. Glad to have you guys with us today. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects. But before we get into it, let me do a couple things. One, again, glad to have you. Just got through recording some podcasts this morning, and I said the same thing on the podcast. I'm so appreciative and so thankful that we have all of you out there that subscribe to our podcasts and to our blogs and come to the webinars and just keep passing it on to everybody. We feel so very fortunate and thankful. So just thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that and appreciate all of you that come and join us. A couple little things here. Again, you've got your dashboard there where you are watching or hopefully watching the webinar. And if you have a question for us or anything that we can do for you about what we're talking about today, don't hesitate to type that in there. The more interactive these things are, the more fun we're going to have. When it comes to this subject matter of closing sales, I am going to give you some of my favorite stuff today. And again, when I talk about closes that actually work and that you can actually use, these are not silver bullets. We're going to spend some time talking about that today. These are not closing techniques that we're going to use in lieu of doing a great job. So I want to make that very, very clear. A lot of times our clients want us to give everybody the magic words to do that with, and there is no such thing. So really looking forward to our time together. Our agenda for today is pretty simple. Again, one is a very tactical skill set, mindset oriented webinar. We're going to talk about what actually to do and what to say. And so again, that's going to be very much something you can take out there and begin to use right away. It is something all of our corporate clients are asking us for. Every time we design sales training, they want us to do something to help their people close more effectively, more efficiently, faster, shorten the sales cycle, all those good things. And so I'm going to give you the same stuff we give them in those sales training workshops that we do. And then that said, like I said, this is not silver bullet stuff. One of the things that I've learned, I was actually talking with my son this morning about the book that we're about to wrap up, From Order Taker to Gladiator, How Top Salespeople Consistently Win the Sales Wars. Will be out here pretty soon. That said, we agree it's kind of like moving. When you move, you get all the big stuff moved, and then it seems to take you 7 days to move all the little stuff. We're about to finish up all the big stuff, but I'm concerned that all the little stuff is going to delay us a little bit. But nonetheless, it's coming out, and one of the things that I've learned from doing all these webinars and podcasts and blogs over the last several months is that everybody wants the real tactical skill set mindset stuff that they can go use right away, but without the strategic, none of it really makes sense. The best way to close, the close I'm going to share with you that I like more than anything else is the assumed sell close. And that means I assumed if I did everything right through the sales process, I sold value, I understand my value, I built a level 5 and 6 relationship with somebody, I assume the next logical step is to close. Well, if I haven't done all of that, then the close becomes something it was not intended to be, which is, again, a silver bullet magic word kind of a thing. So want to be really careful about making sure we're not communicating to you guys that using these closes or something that we're going to do in lieu of doing all the other things right that we need to. So, but we'll kind of talk about that as we go through our time together today. Here's a quote I like to start off with every one of our webinars with a quote, and I like this one to kick this one off today. Success is the culmination of failures, mistakes, false starts, confusion, and the determination, and I might add, through all of that to just keep going anyway. And I think learning to close effectively is a byproduct of a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures, a lot of confusion, but saying, hey, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm just going to keep selling, and I'm going to wind up getting better at it. And certainly we believe that's true, and that's why we do the things that we're doing here in the sales arena. So I've used this particular picture here, and it's from a movie called Glengarry Glen Ross. I was actually going to share a video with you, but the language is so off color that we can't. We were doing a sales training program for a client, and one of the decision makers said, hey, I want you to show some of that Glengarry Glen Ross stuff, and he referenced a couple of scenes and everything. And I actually said, okay, we can do that. We'll just bleep out the bad language. And he said, okay. Well, I had Jason, my son, working on that project and everything. And by the time he got through, there were so many bleeps you couldn't actually understand the content. So I'm not going to run the video for you. But in this particular scene, Alec Baldwin, who plays the sales manager in the movie, walks into this office, and there's a guy across the office who is getting us a cup of coffee. And he hollers at him. He said, "Put that coffee down." And the guy kind of looks at him like, "What?" And he goes, "Put the coffee down. Coffee is for closers." And then he calls the guy out by name and says, "You're not very good at what you do. You're not closing and all that. Matter of fact, you're fired." So when we reference coffee is for closers, I actually think that does a disservice to what closing really is all about. And that's where so many folks put too much pressure on closing in general. And I wanted to give you our definition of closing. And we teach this in all of our workshops. And I can tell you, whenever we teach this, there's kind of a collective sigh or an exhale that goes out of everybody in the room, all right? Our definition of closing in this: closing is nothing more or less than moving to the next logical step at the customer's pace. That's all it is. The next logical step at the customer's pace. And now, again, there's a lot to be learned within the context of that, but it's nothing more than that. And the next logical step for a customer can be a very tiny little baby step to go from having a meeting to creating a proposal, to presenting the proposal, to doing a demo. I mean, all of those things are little bitty steps. All right. It's nothing more or less than that. And it's at the customer's pace, not our pace. All right. This is their agenda, not our agenda. And the more we can get used to that, the better we are. And I'll have people in a workshop will go, wait a minute, I need to close faster. I need to close more sales. All right. Do a better job on the front end, building a gigantic pipeline of people you've done a great job for, and stuff will be falling out the other end of the pipeline in its own due time, not in our time, and you'll be closing plenty of sales. The answer is not to try to rush through this. Now, that said, I will tell you this: there are clients who want to close and they go from A to Z in 30 seconds or less, and we've got to be prepared to match that pace. If you're a much more cautious sales rep and the client's wanting to go 90 miles an hour, you may wind up losing the sale because you're not closing fast enough. But the bottom line is, we don't decide that. We don't get to decide that. The client does. We don't get to decide what the next logical step is. They do. So again, I want to take all the pressure off of closing. I'll share a couple of tips with you here in just a second, but it is simply moving to the next logical step in the relationship, in the process, at the customer's pace. All right? Anybody have any questions about that? Does that make sense? Do me a favor, just kind of testing everybody out here. If that makes sense to you, raise your hand on your little dashboard there, and let me see that you guys are with me here so far today. Okay, good. Cool. All right, a couple more of you. And we get more and more people on the call every week, and so it is tougher to keep track of everybody that's on here. Okay, good. All right, cool. I get that's making good sense to most of you, and maybe some of you are multitasking. So anyway, all right, so 3 things I want us to keep in mind about this. First thing is, closing is not some big, gigantic crescendo event. If it is, all right, we're doing something wrong. If it's a big, gigantic event, there's a lot of pressure on it, it means we've done something wrong. It is the natural byproduct of the selling process, all right? That's what closing is. It comes as a byproduct of doing all those other things properly. If we are always worried about this big, gigantic crescendo event as a close, then we're not doing it right, okay? And then the last thing is, the last step on the mountaintop is no less glorious than the first step in the valley. A quote I heard a long time ago, I can't remember who it was. They were talking about climbing Mount Everest, and the quote said, the last step on the mountaintop is no less glorious than the first step in the valley. And I think closing ought to be like that. When somebody finally does sign a big deal, and again, I get excited about it. I'm really enthusiastic about it. But to me, it's no more important than doing the groundwork that led to all of that and doing the groundwork properly to get to that point in time. So those three things that are important. It's not some big crescendo event, natural byproduct of the sales process. And the last step in the process is no less glorious than the first step. And we want to keep those things in mind. So here is the process that we teach. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. Planning, prospecting, first impressions, qualifying, demonstrating, influencing, and then closing is the next step. All right. Doing all of these things well make closing happen more fast, more quickly. It improves our margins. It improves our closing percentages. And doing all of these things very well takes all the pressure off of that last step, which is signing the deal. I want us to keep these things in mind as we talk about these steps. All right. Now, one of the closing techniques we're going to teach you are all a part of that road to success. Planning, prospecting, first impression, demonstrating, influencing, and in closing are all the road to success. So here's 4 closes that you can use. I'm going to teach you today. I am looking at my library here. I still have one of the very first books I ever bought on closing, 221 Ways to Close. Now, I should have thrown that away a long time ago, but I keep it as a reminder that most of the things in that book are very much designed to manipulate, take advantage of, corner, cajole, old school kinds of closing techniques and everything. The techniques I want to give you today are techniques that we actually teach in our class. I think you can actually use. They're very professional, and I don't think you're going to find anything wrong with using these 4 closes. So here's our list, all right? First close is what we call baby closes, all right? Those are the closes that are all these little bitty steps, and I'm going to share with you a lot of those. And whenever I share them with you, you may go, wait, I didn't think that was a close. Yes, they are. All right, so I'm going to give you some baby closes, and then I'm going to share with you the alternate of choice close, which may sound old school right now, but it's not. I'm going to share with you my very favorite close I like to use in a selling situation, a closing situation, and then I'm going to share with you the assumed sale close and what that means to us. All right, so baby closes, they sound like this. I'm curious about how you do that. Tell me more. What if we did this? Are we on track? Help me with understanding. Does that make sense? All of those are asking for the customer or the client to respond back to us. They are what I call baby closes. Again, you may not have thought of those as a close, but they are. They move the sale forward. We're checking in with the client. We're asking for more information. We're simply wanting to see if we're on the right track. What if we did this? All of those are testing to find out if we're moving along in the sales process with the client, or if they have any objections or anything we need to take care of now. So just keep in mind that all of these little baby closes are moving the sale forward. They are moving to the next logical step at the customer's pace. So I didn't want to gloss over those, and that's why I have 4 closes. So all of these are very important and part of the closing process. Now, alternative choice. In the 221 Ways to Close book is the alternative choice. It is not what that book teaches. All right. Would you like that in red or blue? Do you want that on Thursday or Friday? Would 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. be better for you to meet? Now, those are legitimate questions to ask, but if they're asked as a closing question and it's all manipulative in nature and everything, that I don't think that's a good alternative choice. The alternative choice close that we teach in our workshops looks like this: good, better, best. All right. Whenever we're bringing a proposal to somebody, we're bringing an idea to somebody, the best way to table that idea and bring that to them is say, look, I've got 2 or 3 different ideas for you. All right. Idea number 1 would be, what if we did this? And that idea is something that would be kind of a minimalist proposal. And then perhaps maybe a little bit better idea would be to do this. And then maybe the third thing you'd say is probably the best thing that I suggest is that we do this. Now, I really encourage you to start using this methodology as a closing tool when you bring proposals back to clients. And the reason is 2 or 3 things. First thing is you're giving the client choices, and most decision makers don't like to be told what they're going to do. All right. They like to decide. They like to buy. They don't like to be sold. And so by giving them a good, better, best scenario as a proposal, and the prices tend to match that good, better, best, I've given them the kind of the cheapest or less expensive, easiest way to do it. I've given them a little bit better idea of a way to do it than I've given them. If they're going to do everything that we recommend, it's going to cost this much. I just had somebody take a look at replacing our air conditioner. Air conditioner went out upstairs. Thank goodness it's upstairs, not downstairs. It's beginning to get a little warm, and I was upstairs the other day, and I thought, man, that air's not blowing. Well, the guy came out and took a look at it, and I had a couple of guys do that just to get a couple of different ideas. But the one guy that really impressed me did this exact same thing. And I don't know if he's aware of it or not, but he gave me, okay, if we just repair it, it's going to cost this much. Now, my concern with repairing it is this. If we replace it with a kind of a mid-priced unit, which will get you by, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's really what you want. It's not the new technology. It's not as efficient as the other one is. Long term, you'll actually pay more. And then his last thing was the best, which is the high-end, top-of-the-line, appropriate for the size of our upstairs, and obviously it was a little bit more expensive. Well, I kind of dismissed the cheaper price altogether because I didn't want to go that route, and we were bouncing back and forth between better and best. The second reason why I think you want to start using this methodology is my experience tells me when I present a client with a proposal that has good, better, best, they land in the end on something between better and best. And we do much more of a cafeteria style proposal, if you will. What if we did this, and this? A lot of times what we add on at the end is it's a proposal for follow-up. We automatically always include 6 months worth of follow-up in any keynote or training program that we do. And then we propose, what if we did 12 months or 18 months of follow-up? Now, quite frankly, most clients don't buy that initially. But once they see the follow-up program in place, then they tend to buy the add-on follow-up to drive it out to 12 months, 18 months, even some of our clients do 24 months of follow-up. So I like the alternative choice as a closing tool, not in the form of, do you want red or blue? Do you want it on Thursday or Friday? Do you want it at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m.? Do you want that in 10 boxes or 5 boxes? I don't particularly like that, particularly if it's used in sort of a salesy fashion. But I do love this alternative choice tool as a good, better, best closing technique with our clients and everything. Okay. Now, any questions here? I see we've got a couple of them. Have you ever seen instances of a changing order to best, better, good? Paul, that's a good question. Here's why I don't. I've never seen that, and here's what my instincts tell me. The reason why I wouldn't want to do that. Sorry, guys. Drinking something there to help my voice a little bit. We've got allergy season here in Houston, and it's grabbing my voice, so apologize. Here's what my instincts tell me would make me nervous about that. If I bring you better first, I'm afraid you're going to wind up with sticker shock. To me, going good, better, best builds on a minimalist kind of solution that solves the problems that we've talked about. Better builds on that minimalist solution and kind of adds some accessories to the automobile, so to speak. And then best is the high end. I think if we start with best, we wound up giving them sticker shock a lot. So that would be my concern about that. Although I wouldn't be object to trying it. I'm open to trying a little bit of everything. So close the window before more pollen comes in. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm working on that. So anyway. All right, so there's the alternative choice. Any other questions? Good stuff there, guys. Appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts? Again, if you have any questions about this, be sure and go to salesgladiators.com/QIF and leave us questions. That's where we come up with a lot of our podcast subject matter and everything. Matter of fact, the webinar we're going to do, not next week, that'll be the No Holds Barred coaching session, but the webinar we'll be doing 2 weeks after that. came from Leslie Ammerman, who's one of our regulars on the webinars, and she asked me a question. We're going to do a webinar about how do you become more successful at getting meetings with key decision makers, and I'm going to do a webinar on that with some ideas for you. That came from her. So if you've got questions, go to that page, or you can go to the playback page of this particular webinar. We'll send that link out to you, and you can put in the comment section any questions you have that we can clarify or help with. So again, I love this one. I really love this as a tool from a proposal standpoint. It's helped us grow revenues through the years significantly by bringing them good, better, best solutions that the client, again, tend to land in between better and best. I've not had a client in the last 10 years buy the good, or I've not had it happen. So I'm going to encourage you to use that in your proposal process. Now, here's my favorite close, all right? If you and I are meeting and I'm going to bring you a proposal, or we've come down to any kind of a significant next step, all right? Next step at the client's pace. Any kind of next step that we're closing to move forward with, all right? I'm going to say this, and I use Leslie's name here. Hey, Leslie, I learned a long time ago that closing is nothing more than moving to the next logical step at the customer's pace. What would that look like to you today? All right, now I really like that close. Every now and then I will beef that up by saying, hey, Paul, I've been a sales guy all my life. I've read the 221 Ways to Close book. Quite frankly, most of those are embarrassing, so I'm not going to embarrass you today. I learned a long time ago that closing is nothing more than moving to the next logical step at the customer's pace. What does that look like to you? All right, I like directing it very clear to them. Nothing more than moving to the next logical step at your pace. What does that look like to you? And I'll have clients tell me, well, hey, go draw the contract up, get it back to me. I like better. Let's add on 6 months of follow-up, and I'm ready to go. Let's get that done. Or he may say, or she may say, well, hang on, let me do this. I need to get with some other folks here. I need to get that in front of them. It allows me to ask questions about who are they? What do you need from me? Can I help you do that? An objection may come up here. But next logical step at your pace, and they get to tell me then what their agenda is and what speed they want to move. So that's close number 3 is it's the next logical step. I really want to call this the Jacobus close. I've never seen anybody teach this before. I've never heard anybody else teach this before. It's pretty much something we came up with on our own, but I haven't become arrogant enough yet to put my name on it. Maybe somebody else will. Jason, my son, is always telling me he hates the people on Facebook, some of my peers who post quotes that are their own quotes. And I actually did that one time, and he chastised me for it. So I hate to name this a Jacobus close, but maybe that's what it ought to be. If anybody else wants to out there, you can say, hey, I love the Jacobus close, and maybe we'll call it that, or we'll come up with a better name for it. Anyway, I do like that close, and it's very comfortable for me to use in a kind of a big next step situation. And then the last close is what we call the assumed sale close. Now, I went to look for some graphics for assumed sale close, and of course, the first thing you see is what happens when you assume anything. All right, you break that word assumed into 3 different parts, and you make an ass out of you and me if we assume. That said, all right, I want to acknowledge that because I know that's out there, always has been. I heard it years and years and years ago. I am assuming the sale is going to close because of a couple of things. One, I did everything right. If you go back to the sales process, if you will, if I did a great job of planning my year, I've got a great plan. I did a great job of identifying who my ideal clients are, and I'm working hard to build a book of business where my ideal clients are becoming level 5 and 6 partners, advisor clients. I'm doing a great job of that. I had great first impressions from the very beginning to the end, talking about value, discussing value, communicating value. I did an awesome job of qualifying what their real needs were by asking them great questions, and they made it very clear to me what their needs were for moving forward, what kind of solutions they were looking for, what challenges they had. And then from that qualifying process, I presented and demonstrated a solution with a good, better, best scenario that literally solves their problems and gives them a great return on investment. When they had an objection, we handled it well in the influencing phase. I assume we're going to close and move forward. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope it does. I assume that we're going to move forward. And many times it's simply something like the customer going, great job, Jim, get me a contract. Great job, Jim, let's move forward. Great job, send me over your paperwork. Great job, looking forward to having you at our conference in October. It's just that next logical step with the client because we've done everything properly moving up to that point in time. That's why I think closing as a silver bullet just doesn't work. When we try to close prematurely or we try to close and we haven't established that we've got a great solution for the client that yields a high return on investment for them for the price that they're going to pay, then I think we wind up with tons and tons of objections. Our closing rates are very, very low. And then we come to a workshop going, give me a silver bullet so I can close more sales. And like I said, I just think we're misguiding ourselves when we believe that there's some kind of a silver bullet there. Okay. And again, we just assume we're going to close the deal and move forward. That to me is the assume sell close. And it's probably the one I use 90% of the time. And I will tell you that most of the time it works. Now, what if they happen to say no? All right. They say no. They've got some kind of a problem with it all, or they want to wait or whatever. A couple of things I want you to realize. It's part of the deal. All right. They're going to say no. Sometimes they say no just to test us. Sometimes they say no to see if we'll, discount it or whatever. And again, it's why it's so important that we understand our value. Saying no on the client's part is just part of the deal. And when they do say no, we can't allow it to shake us. We can't allow us to go, what's wrong with them? Matter of fact, there are people out there who teach buyers, who teach purchasing agents to say no and watch if we flinch. The strongest negotiating position you and I will ever have is the fallback position of, if I get the business, great. If I don't get the business, I've got somebody else to go make a call on in 5 minutes. All right. When there's a lot of pressure on the sale because we've got too much riding on it and we haven't done a good job, and they say no and we flinch, we're doing a couple of things to ourselves that aren't good. One is we're creating a problem with our credibility. The second thing is we're creating a huge problem from the standpoint of our negotiating point of view. I had a client here just about a month ago. I told this story on one of our podcasts or one of the webinars. I apologize if I can't remember which one it was. But I had a group of automotive dealers here in town wanted me to hire me to do sales training. And at the end of the day, quite frankly, it just wasn't a good fit. I could have gotten the business. I could have made some pretty good money. They wanted me to discount it about 50%, which, by the way, you can appreciate this if you're in the sales business out there. He said, we could do that, but you're going to have to cut that price in about half. And this was the owner of these guys have 11 dealerships. And I said, here's the biggest problem with that. Are you literally going to want me to stand in front of your people and teach them how to sell value, knowing that I discounted my price 50% to you? I mean, where's the credibility in that? And the guy kind of looked at me and he stuttered and he goes, well, yeah, I want you to do that. And I said, well, first thing is I can't do that because, one, I know what my time is worth. And quite frankly, it's worth a lot more than what you're asking me to sell it to you for, and I can't do that. The second thing is I'll have no credibility in front of your people if they know or I know that we discounted this thing 50%. And I literally walked away from the business, sent them an email and told them, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. I just don't think we have a good fit. The strongest negotiating position we will ever have is to know that no piece of business is that big that it makes us nervous if they say no. All right. If we flinch when they say no, we're in a bad spot there for a lot of different reasons. So if they do say no, it's part of the deal. There's nothing wrong with them. And it should cause you and I to ask ourselves, what in the sales process, what in my methodologies did I not do well? All right. So those are the 4 different closes that we talk about. Baby closes. We talk about the alternative choice close. We talk about my favorite close. And then now here, the last thing we talked about was the assumed sell close and what we do whenever they say no. Any questions you guys have? Q&A as far as the stuff we shared with you today. My voice is hanging on right here. So any questions, any thoughts, any feedback? Again, you guys have been telling us you'd like for us to keep these to about 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm doing everything I can to make sure we keep the stuff bite-sized. Any questions, gang? All right, let me just ask you this. If that made sense to you, if that's going to help you out, do me a favor, raise your hand. Just let me know you got some value out of that. All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Oh, you bet. Thank you too, man. I appreciate that. By the way, I do love good feedback. So anytime you have that for me, I'm always glad to hear it. Okay, well, like I said, I've been sharing with you all along. Our hope for you in doing all of the work that we do is a couple of things. If you're brand new, we want to give you the foundation to help you build the sales career and life you want. If you're stuck in the middle, you've been doing this for a while and you're stuck in the middle. By the way, one of the reasons we get stuck in the middle is because we're not doing all of that hard due diligence work of cranking out a great process, building high-level relationships, and learning to sell value. We're looking for silver bullets, and silver bullets will get us stuck in the middle faster than anything. I had somebody the other day ask me about that, and I said, let me explain something to you. I can give you a silver bullet on handling your prices too high objection. I can do that. And if you go in there and you handle it well, you may earn the business in that particular order. But if I or somebody who is doing the process properly comes in behind you, they will crush you. All right, if they really build value, they execute an outstanding process, the stuff we talked about a while ago, they're building level 5 and 6 relationships and you're using silver bullets, sooner or later you're going to get crushed, you're going to lose that business, and that's what keeps us on the roller coaster that is stuck in the middle. Because we lose business, but at the same time we gain business. It goes away. We can't hang on to it because we're not doing all of the hard work needed to be done to keep that business. So if you're stuck in the middle, part of the reason may be because we're using too many or leaning on silver bullet kinds of stuff, and we want to get you out of there. And the last thing, if you're already at the top, we want to help you stay there. So, gang, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys. I love you, and I really love working with so many outstanding professionals. If I can do anything for you, let us know. I know we got some new people on here today. Glad to have you with us. Really appreciate you joining us. As always, we will take these things and we'll post them on the website, salesgladiators.com/webinars. You'll be able to pick up the webinar page there, and I'll probably have that posted for you. It probably won't be till Friday unless I'm able to get to it later tonight. I'm doing an all-day program tomorrow up in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I may or may not get to it tomorrow, so it may be Friday. But I will email you out when I do, and we'll get that information out to you. So if you have any questions, go to salesgladiators.com/QIF and leave those questions for you, or go to the page where this webinar is posted and leave us a comment or question there. Again, thank you so much. Hope you guys have a great day. Take care.